There have been so many instances lately where Google's AI overview, which I think is powered by Gemini, just gives me completely wrong answers. I'm going to show you a couple of examples when it comes to camera specs. So let's ask it a question about the Sony a7S III. Does it have oversampled 4K? No, the Sony a7S III does not shoot oversampled 4K. It primarily records 4K at its native resolution, which is 12 megapixels. All right, we're off to a decent start. So let's check on the Sony FX3. Does the Sony FX3 have oversampled 4K? Yes, the Sony FX3 does offer oversampled 4K recording. It records internal 4K video from a 6K sensor. But doesn't the Sony a7S III and the FX3 have the same sensor? Let's ask Google Gemini to check. Yeah, the Sony FX3 and the Sony a7S III share the same sensor. Both cameras utilize a 10.2 megapixel sensor. Sure, I think the effective resolution is closer to 10 megapixels. Technically, the overall resolution of the sensor is closer to 12, but I'll give that a pass. So how many megapixels does a sensor actually need in order to capture 6K? Well, according to Google Gemini, 6K video typically requires around 20 megapixels, which is closer to the truth. So those examples might not have been obvious off the bat, but a little bit more research should quickly show you that Google's AI overview is giving you contradictory information. But there are other examples, one of which I'm going to show you, where Google's AI overview, or Google Gemini that's powering this thing, kind of gives you a half-true answer or even a mostly true answer, but it's very misleading and it can potentially lead somebody to just purchasing the entirely wrong camera for the workflow they're after. Does the Sony a7 IV film raw video? No, the Sony a7 IV does not film raw video internally. However, it goes on to say that the camera itself doesn't record raw, but when you record to an external monitor like the Atomos Ninja V or Blackmagic Video Assist 12G, these recorders can capture raw video output from the a7 IV. So at best, this is just misleading. Unfortunately, the Sony a7 IV doesn't allow for raw video output, even to an external recorder. However, those external recorders can capture raw output from cameras that support it, but the a7 IV doesn't support it.